Good evening, I'm Esther Gidhui-Ewart. This is Africa 54. Tonight, we begin with the fast-moving coronavirus. The top U.S. expert on infectious diseases is calling on everyone to prepare to stay in place as the world battles COVID-19. There are nearly 170,000 coronavirus cases worldwide and over 6,500 deaths. More than 77,000 people have recovered from COVID-19. VOA diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain has our report.
Some panicked Americans returned from Europe to chaotic scenes and long lines for temperature screenings at airports, while others sought to stock up on basic groceries and essential supplies.
You don't have to buy so much. Take it easy. Just relax.
After facing criticism for weeks of delays in making testing for the coronavirus widely available in the U.S., Vice President Mike Pence and other task force members said the focus for testing is on the elderly and on healthcare workers. The top U.S. expert on infectious diseases, Anthony Fauci, said he wants to see more Americans hunker down at home to protect the elderly and those with underlying health conditions.
What we should be doing is absolutely making it much, much different, not business as usual. You got to just chill down.
Asked how long it would take for American life to return to normal, Fauci said,
several weeks to few months for sure.
The House of Representatives passed a sweeping coronavirus response package which would ensure free coronavirus testing for all and provide for extended family and sick leave for millions of Americans facing unprecedented uncertainty.
It was really important for us to say no longer can we be in denial about the numbers and what is happening in our country. We have to get this testing bill passed.
Trump has expressed support for the House bill, and the Senate is expected to take it up this week. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
Experts say the coronavirus began through animal-to-human transmission at a wildlife market in Wuhan, China in December. Since then, the deadly virus has become a global pandemic. The crisis has prompted the Chinese government to impose a ban on consumption and trade of illegal wildlife. But as VOA's Julie Tabo reports, not all at-risk countries are following the example.
Snakes, bats, and other types of wildlife are popular foods in parts of Southeast Asia, where they're considered a delicacy and a good source of protein.
When in parties such as anniversaries or any other joyful events, if snake and bat meats are served, the visitors will be looking for it right away because they are favorite delicacies.
But the trade and consumption of animals from live wildlife markets is now considered risky after experts revealed the highly contagious coronavirus was likely transmitted from animals to humans at a wildlife market in Wuhan, China. Bats, snakes, and more recently pangolins are believed to have helped spread the virus at the root of the pandemic. The Chinese government has been shutting down live wildlife markets across China and has banned the hunting, buying, and selling of illegal wildlife for consumption.
I think it's very clear the Chinese government really understand now that the massive impact of this virus has stemmed from poor regulation, poor controls on the previous so-called wet markets in China.
Crawford Allen is with the World Wildlife Fund in Washington.
And I think that you will see some very strict penalties, very strict enforcement and measures now to clamp down, a lot more regulation of food markets.
Allen would like to see all illegal and unregulated live wildlife markets around the world shut down to prevent viruses like COVID-19.
And so there are markets in Indonesia, there are markets in Vietnam, there are markets in Laos and Myanmar where you have this interface in the same way as we saw in Wuhan that could be a powder keg waiting to explode.
But those at-risk countries have been slow to ban the sale of live wildlife. Bats and snakes are still popular in Indonesia, despite a decline in sales of up to 50%.
People here are never afraid to eat bat and snake meat because they have been our traditional food for years.
Allen says the issue goes beyond health risks.
I think people are hopeful that if we can ban these illegal and unregulated markets, put in place very strict enforcement, it will help protect wildlife in the wild. Hopefully that will mean they will say, no, I'm not going to buy that bowl of pangolin soup, or no, I'm not going to trade civet cats illegally into the market anymore.
He hopes the lessons of COVID-19 will have an impact.
I do think this is a ticking time bomb, that unless this information is taken seriously and heeded, we could see more viruses like this emerging in future.
Allen says wildlife conservation and protection is critical, not just to protect human health, but also to ensure the ecological survival of the planet. Julie Tabo, VOA News, Washington.
In a country where homosexuality is criminalized, Alice Nkom was the first lawyer in Cameroon to defend suspected gay people. For this, she says she has faced attacks and death threats. Moki Edwin Kinzeke narrates this report by Anzwan Keu in Douala, Cameroon.
Yannick House Penta says he has been arrested 3 times on suspicion of homosexuality. The young man says during his first arrest, he had trouble finding a lawyer who would agree to defend him.
Après être arrêté comme ça et que j'ai
After
fait
being arrested, I did
être en
everything to be in
contact avec un
contact with
avocat.
a lawyer.
Mais
Unfortunately, this
malheureusement,
lawyer, a
cet
fervent
avocat
believer, as he
est
said,
fervent croyant,
refused,
comme il le
because
dit,
for him, it's an
a
abomination
refusé
to be
carrément
who I
parce que
am,
pour
and
lui,
he cannot
c'était
stand
une
up for me
abomination
for
d'être
such
ce
a
que je
cause.
suis.
So I had to
Et
fall back
il
on
ne pouvait pas
associations.
prendre ma défense pour pareille cause. Donc j'étais obligé de me rabattre vraiment vers des associations.
According to Human Rights Watch, Cameroon brings more cases against suspected homosexuals than any other African country. When arrested, gay people mostly rely on activist and LGBT-friendly lawyers like Alice Nkom. She was the first female lawyer of Cameroon and the first to defend gay people. She says she did it because gay people are beaten in the streets, arrested, and sometimes even locked up only on the basis of suspicion. This commitment had consequences.
Ce que m'a coûté d'être défenseur des droits des homosexuels, c'est le rejet.
What it cost me to be a gay rights defender was the rejection, the assault. I am not recognized as someone who defends human rights because for them, the rights of homosexuals are not human rights.
Voilà, ça m'a coûté ça.
Nkom is campaigning to remove a section in the Cameroon Penal Code that criminalizes sexual contacts between members of the same sex. So far, the law stands, but Nkom has succeeded in winning reduced prison time for about 30 defendants. Her activism has also enabled 10 or so pro-LGBT activist groups to emerge in Cameroon.
The work that Metro Alice that we commonly call affectionately Mom has done so far has permitted us today to at least come out openly and to at least know that we have a say in the society and that we also have a right like every human being. And that has gone so far as even in health, because at first we could not there were no projects that actually took into consideration people from the LGBT community.
Nkom has also taken a stand against the separatist war in Western Cameroon. On International Women's Day, she and other women dressed in black and marched in memory of the women killed during the 3-year war. For Anne Zwanke in Douala, Cameroon, Moki Edwin Kinzeka for VOA News.
Ugandan poet Stella Nyanzi was released in February after spending over a year in prison for a post she made on Facebook that insulted President Yoweri Museveni. Nyanzi used her time behind bars to write a book and is inspiring others to use poetry to express their political opinions. Halima Thumani reports from Kampala.
Before her release in February, Ugandan poet Stella Nyanzi was serving 18 months in prison for cyber-harassing Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. She was convicted last year for her 2018 Facebook post that, in graphic language, wished Museveni had died as a fetus for what she says he has done to Uganda and its people. Nyanzi says being in jail gave her time to write a fresh book of poems aptly titled No Roses from My Mouth.
I sit on the meager prison bedding spread on the floor, lean against the wall, pull out my pen and notebook and write whatever I please. Ah, what freedom to write. Although my writings are often confiscated by prison staff during sport ward searches and routine body searches, I insist on writing as a form of resistance.
After her conviction, some Ugandan writers were wary of offending the government with lewd comments. Nyanzi's supporters responded to the chilling effect on free speech by applauding her use of prose to take on politics.
She's our hero. I think we shall celebrate her. One day, there will come a time when we shall say, Stella, you are the reason we are better governed, because your fighting has given us all these beautiful fruits.
Ugandan authorities have repeatedly detained Nyanzi for criticizing Museveni, who has been president for more than 3 decades. Although a high court acquitted the poet of cyber harassment, Uganda's public prosecutor insists Nyanzi's online post was illegal.
As a result, we have appealed to the Court of Appeal against the acquittals, and we intend to peruse the record of proceedings and the judgment and come up with grounds of appeal, which we shall argue to prove our case.
Hopeful poets like Daphne Narinda are learning what it means to speak their minds in Museveni's Uganda.
So I am terrified, I can't lie. But I also have the confidence and also the inner will to know that if I'm strong about something, then I can pursue it to its end.
Meanwhile, Nyanzi herself has become the subject of poetry.
A reject of that day's civilization, they want to sieve her, throw out the chaff, that her golden crown, wild hairs tangled in cotton fabric debris, armpits musky after a day's work, nails darkened from a walk amongst trees. That's her. That's her.
Halima Athmani for VA News, Kampala.
4 U.S. states are holding presidential nominating contests on Tuesday that may eliminate any doubt as to which Democratic candidate will face President Donald Trump. VOA's Ken Farabaugh reports from Chicago.
On a sunlit March afternoon, Bernie Sanders basked in the adoration of thousands of supporters gathered at Chicago's Grant Park.
There are a lot of people here today. Thank you, Chicago!
COVID-19 made this one of Sanders' last public rallies. A series of primary losses has bruised his campaign, but didn't sap the enthusiasm of the crowd. Among his legions of young supporters, nurse Sabrina Hornak.
I feel great about the turnout here today. I am excited that Chicago came out to support Bernie. I think it bodes very well for the primary.
But turnout at the ballot box has favored Biden of late. Already, the former vice president is making overtures to Sanders supporters.
And I want to thank Bernie Sanders and his supporters for their tireless energy and their passion. We share a common goal, and together we'll defeat Donald Trump.
But Sanders hasn't given up.
And if we're going to beat Trump, we need the largest voter turnout in the history of America, and that turnout looks like Grant Park today.
Exit polling shows Sanders the strong favorite of voters aged 18 to 29, but young people aren't turning out in large enough numbers to overcome the advantage Joe Biden has with older voters and African Americans.
I think apathy has a lot to do with voting. A lot of young people, I think, don't think anything ever makes a difference.
2018, people were surprised by it. I think 1 in 5 nationwide young people voted, which was unprecedented. And so far, the Sanders camp has been pretty disappointed with the youth voter turnout.
Polling data also shows many voters see Biden best suited to defeat Donald Trump, something many Democrats prioritize over specific policy positions on issues like health care reform and making college affordable.
People see the stakes as so high on the Democratic side against Donald Trump versus really voting for what you actually want to see put into practice in policy preferences.
Some Sanders supporters acknowledge the delegate math heavily favors Biden.
We can't sugarcoat things. We should be sober. Super Tuesday didn't go as well as, a lot of Sanders supporters in the campaign was expecting.
Current polling shows Sanders trailing Biden in all 4 states voting Tuesday. His campaign desperately needs a surprise victory or two to be seen as viable going forward. Biden, meanwhile, is increasingly focusing his firepower on President Trump, blasting his response to the COVID-19 crisis.
This virus laid bare the severe shortcomings of the current administration. Public fears are being compounded by a pervasive lack of trust in this president and our ability to drive a global response is dramatically undercut by the damage Trump has done to our credibility and our relationships around the world.
Massive public rallies could be a thing of the past for the remainder of the campaign, with candidates communicating with supporters online instead of in person.
Chicago, thank you very much.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Chicago, Illinois.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a young boxer from Botswana defies the odds and goes for the gold.
Alongside Nigeria, we survived the picture with Mr. Sofiano. You know what it is, my bad records. Get it on. Too many haters started, I ain't gonna be here. I'm ignoring the fake track in my pain.
In East Africa, a massive locust infestation is threatening millions of people with starvation. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization is calling it extremely alarming, but technology may help combat the modern incarnation of this plague by mapping its travel and predicting its next battlefront. VOA's Arashara Basadi reports.
In Kenya and other parts of East Africa, a locust infestation is threatening the food security of millions. A mechanism to help exists in a server room in Nairobi.
We use this supercomputer system to produce forecasts on different time scales, for example, seasonal forecast, monthly forecast, and 10 days forecast. And more recently, we started to use it for a forecast that is helping with the tracking of desert locust movement.
Abubakar Salih Babikar is a climate scientist at the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. He and other researchers use a supercomputer that tracks and predicts locust movement.
Desert locust is known to move according to climate condition. So we produce forecasts, for example, for the wind speed, wind direction, air temperature, soil and atmospheric moisture content, how moist is the air, how wet is the soil.
Bobby Kerr says that a geographic information satellite adds to that data, and together they predict where swarms will move in 10 days, which helps NGOs working to control the damage locusts cause.
In this way, they are more efficient in allocating the resources, allocating also the financial capacity to control the desert locust. It's a very innovative and a new way of using technology to solve a real-life problem like the desert locust.
Experts agree that the computer models help, but room always remains for improvement. Kenneth Mwangi is a satellite information analyst.
After 10 days, we'll hear the invasions have happened in certain areas that probably are even beyond our prediction, beyond our focus, because of the movement of the locust has been very fast. So what we've been doing is to try to run models, better models, high-resolution models, adjusting our times also, and that's how we've been improving our products.
Experts call this the worst outbreak in 70 years. Locust swarms can travel 161 kilometers in a day and consume as many crops as could feed 35,000 people. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington.
Kenya's Amboseli National Park is home to hordes of elephants which are prone to poaching for the illicit trade in ivory. A new program that has brought on board women in the fight against poachers is gaining traction. Lenny Ruvaga reports from Kajiado.
23-year-old Purity Amleset goes through the paces with her team. Today, Amleset is the team lead in this all-female unit, ensuring that all rangers have their orders correct. The task, locating an elephant and her newborn calf. Dubbed Team Lioness, the ranger unit is comprised of 8 women whose core duties involve protecting wildlife within the Olgulului Ololarashi Group ranch, which covers around 1,230 square kilometers. Amleset says joining an all-female ranger unit has been beneficial to the traditionally patriarchal Maasai community.
Our community held the view that women and girls were the weaker sex, and that girls could only do menial jobs and housework, which included only raising a family. But over the course of time, we have been showing and telling them the importance of being a ranger.
Olgulului Ololarashi Group Ranch surrounds Amboseli National Park, making it a likely gateway for poachers who may seek entry into the park to hunt illegally. Patrick Papatiti, the commander of the Olgulului Community Wildlife Rangers, has around 76 rangers under his charge. He says integrating women hasn't been easy.
We have the same mentality, even within the ranger unit, where men were in ranger unit. The same mentality that ladies cannot do it. But surprisingly, we have the best young women who can run, who can walk faster than these guys, who can go long distances than these guys. So from that working together, they worked for themselves and they earned the respect they have among the team of the other men.
Despite the challenges in the end, James Isiche, the regional director for East Africa from the International Fund for Animal Welfare, says starting an all-female ranger unit was a risk worth taking.
Most of societies in Kenya or communities in Kenya are male-dominated, but this particular one is extremely male-dominated. So getting young ladies to engage in what is seen as a man's job is a huge success. And what we are seeing is that it's encouraging other girls to step up.
Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Kajiado, Kenya.
A young Botswana boxer is defying the odds to become the country's first ever female Olympian in the sport. He is Mkandisi Dube.
Sadie Kenosi is basking in rare glory. The 23-year-old from Botswana has become the first ever woman boxer to represent their country at the Olympic Games.
I was a bully at school. Like, a week cannot pass by without involved in a school fight. My first coach called me because he saw me in staff room getting beaten for beating other kids. So he came to me, recruit me to join boxing, but I didn't agree at first.
Eventually, she did agree and quickly became an impressive boxer. Kenosi won the gold in the African Youth Games in 2014. But as a junior African champion in a male-dominated sport, she faces challenges.
In Botswana, we have few women in boxing, so it's hard to train because you have to spar, to spar. So when there are fewer, it's a challenge to us.
Kenosi's national team coach, Letsetsani Mastaluza, says her gains in the sport are inspiring other young women.
It has been a bit difficult, but now I believe she has made a case for boxing. All the youngsters out there are going to see this. They've seen her achievements, they've seen the achievements of other women also who are in boxing.
An advocate for getting more women in sports, Kenosi
It's an achievement that now helps us to make a case for women and girls in sport. It's an achievement that also makes it easy for us to break the barriers and to start conversations or continue conversations about the importance of participation of women and girls in sport.
Olympians hope Kenosi's feat could pave way for more girls to participate, especially in contact sports like boxing and rugby.
In Botswana, the girl child oftentimes has to look after their younger siblings. They are also expected to prepare meals for the rest of the family. So that is one point. The second point is our sports facilities have generally not been too safe for girl children.
Mqondisi Dube for VOA News, Gaborone, Botswana.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voanews.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.